Every Jujutsu sorcerer must follow the rules of the Jujutsu world. For something to be gained, something else must be given. Every special grade sorcerer knows this truth to be apparent. Satoru Gojo, Ryomen Sukuna, Kenjaku. These sorcerers are so strong not only because of their technique, but because of their understanding of Jujutsu sorcery and its complexity. For one to become the strongest, they must master all aspects of combat and be willing to sacrifice every value they have in order to keep moving forward. With the sole exception of Fumihiko Takaba, of course.
He's flippant, egotistical.
And it goes without saying.
He's the strongest!
In JJK, Takaba is, to put it mildly, a complete and utter anomaly. In contrast to characters like Megumi, Yuji, or even Gojo, who are strategic and creative with their style of combat, constantly evolving and changing their approach based on the situation and their opponent's set of abilities, Takaba is just a walking... wouldn't it be funny if... His entire ability is based on being an entertainer, hence the name of his curse technique, comedian. It pretty much allows him to bend the rules of reality and Jujutsu to his whims, depending on what kind of scenario he can dream up that would make for a funny joke. If he thinks it'd be funny that you get hit by a truck, you get hit by a truck. If he thinks it'd be funny that he deflowered you in public, he deflowers you in public. If he's like, minding his own business, just walking around in public, and he happens to hear someone behind him just mutter under their breath, "What if Yuta was strong?" And Takaba hears it and laughs, Yuta is, well... Huh. Would you look at that? Basically, he's what you get when you pit Goku up against Uncle Grandpa. So let's try and explain this anomaly of Jujutsu and why Fumihiko Takaba is the real potential man of Jujutsu Kaisen. Let's answer the question, is Takaba special grade, or is he a fraud? Okay, short answer, yes, he is. Because the benchmark for being a special grade is to be able to take over a country on your own, and someone could just say to him, "Hey yo, Takaba, wouldn't it be funny if Albania just burst into flames?" And if he laughed at it, hey, congrats, new special grade unlocked. So, sorry Albania. So, theoretically speaking, yes, he is special grade. But that's the boring answer. Come on, who wants the boring answer? You came here because you want to know how Takaba's technique actually functions. I mean, what are you gonna do? Go read the manga? Watch the exposition and not just skip to the fights and watch it through edits? I practically have to keep a Jane Juliet edit in the bottom right corner of this video just for you to give me the watch time. Seriously though, please, I need watch time. My last video only got 30 hours of watch time. That's less than I spend in a weekend jerking off. We gotta pump those numbers up, okay? Alright, now enjoy the video, and please subscribe. It's free, and you can make a big deal out of it when you unsubscribe, because I'm eventually going to sell out to Big Dairy to become a milk-only mukbang channel. I'm gonna, drink a gallon of milk and, burp and, rub my big fat belly. Takaba started out as a pretty normal person in life. In fact, he actually started as an unlovable chud who was socially inept and didn't have any friends. Insert literally me. You get the idea. The whole reason he actually started to pursue comedy and develop a love for it is because he wanted to make people laugh so they would be his friends. As he got older, he decided that he wanted to pursue comedy as an actual career, which he worked towards constantly. However, he found that no matter what he did, he couldn't get people to laugh at him. He's 35 years old, has no career to show for his years of work, and he's completely washed up. And suddenly, one day, at his lowest point, he wakes up and is able to make anything he thinks is funny become reality. Hundreds of miles away, something that Takaba could never have prepared for was happening. As a 1,000-year-old Buddhist monk activated the technique of the disaster curse Mahito, the strongest comedian of the modern age, Fumihiko Takaba is awakened. Yay, oh my god, I love you, Takaba! I love you, Takaba! You're the funniest guy around! Have my baby! Please, sign my eviction notice! Takaba's curse technique, comedian, results in a very unique situation playing out whenever Takaba gets into a fight. The curse technique's ability means whatever scenario Takaba thinks of at a given time, should he deem it to be funny, will become reality. It basically allows him to bend the rules of reality to whatever he wants, for a bit. If he thinks it would be funny that his opponent gets turned into the American that the Japanese think that we are, well, they get a free American flag bandana and badass sunglasses. Whenever an opponent starts to fight Takaba, he doesn't usually try to dodge the first attack. We've only seen this happen a handful of times, so I don't think this is like required or anything, but it's definitely fitting in Takaba's character for him to like allow himself to be hit and like have all of his limbs be cut off just to like reattach them, or be like hit by a nuclear bomb and then just walk away unscathed as his opponent looks on in complete and utter horror. This pretty much allows him to fully negate any and all physical damage, and he also probably is able to involuntarily use reverse curse technique, as we see him get hit point blank by a bomb in the face, and within literally 2 minutes we see him looking entirely healed and refreshed. Of course, you know, we don't know the full extent of this. Maybe he gets hit by like a fuga or something, and then he gets like atomized, and then, I don't know, he summons Thanos to like time stone him back to being re-atomized, or I don't know what I'm talking about. You get the idea. Any kind of damage you do to him, he's probably just gonna recover from instantly. The truth is that Takaba can pretty much do whatever the hell he wants, as long as whatever the hell he wants is funny. But that also means that his opponent is able to do the same. As long as his opponent also thinks whatever they're doing is funny, and tries to make a comedic performance instead of focusing on combat against Takaba, they can also tap into the same toon force Takaba has access to. We see this in the fight with Kenjaku, where Kenjaku is literally able to switch genders and turn into a cat. Do not let Hikari see this, because Yuji will probably get another sibling. However, there is a catch to this. Takaba's technique and Takaba himself are in a very interesting relationship, one in which Takaba actually doesn't know about his technique and genuinely thinks all this shit is just happening. In fact, it's actually stated that if he did understand it, he would probably never be able to use it again. Any doubt in Takaba's mind that what he's doing is funny means that he won't be able to use his technique, so he has to have full confidence that what he's doing is absolutely hilarious at all times. If he's like thinking in the back of his mind, oh, this has to be funny for it to work, he's not going to be able to dedicate himself fully to the bit, and he's not going to think it's funny, and it's not going to work. This is also important because if someone else knows how the technique works and they try to use it, it probably wouldn't work either. There's no reason for us to assume that someone else using the same technique as Takaba is for some reason exempt from this rule. So they also have to be trying to be funny while being clueless as to why in order to actually stand any chance when fighting Takaba. I think this is how it works. My best understanding. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Shoot me in the head, but maybe not actually. Don't do that, please.
One Mexican down?
Pretty much the only way to defeat him is to be just smart enough to go along with Takaba to avoid taking damage, but just stupid enough to not know why. But trying to kill Takaba in a funny way isn't the way to kill him either, since he can just be funnier. There's actually a very unique way to defeat Takaba, and the only person we've seen discover it is Kenjaku. So now let's try and explain Takaba's only real weakness, and why, unfortunately, he probably can't ever really be in the conversation of the strongest. During their fight, Kenjaku was able to make Takaba question if he was actually funny, which worked for a time, but eventually resulted in Takaba being empowered and him deciding that he must make Kenjaku laugh no matter what, nullifying this strategy. Kenjaku was only able to defeat Takaba because instead of focusing on combat, where he was losing, he shifted his strategy to trying to understand Takaba's technique, and more importantly, trying to play into Takaba's performance in a way that would fulfill Takaba's comedic desire to make people laugh. He felt like if he could make Takaba feel fulfilled, like he had just performed in front of like thousands of people and had the best set of his life in a stand-up comedy show, he wouldn't have the will to keep fighting, and he wouldn't have the will to keep doing bits because he's already done the best bit. Why would you want to go on from there? You stop. You're like, oh, I might as well end on a high. That was Kenjaku's mentality towards this, and to his credit, he was actually able to do it. He correctly assumed the only possible way to win was not to beat Takaba at his own game, but help him achieve his dream of being the funniest man alive. But Kenjaku didn't account for one thing. During all of this, he thought that Takaba was not only capable of defeating him, but killing him on the spot. But Takaba has one secret that made it so Kenjaku was rigged to lose from the start. Takaba would never kill someone. He can't. His moral code would never allow him to rob someone of their ability to smile. Takaba was just fucking around, and Kenjaku was trying his hardest to be funny just so that Takaba wouldn't kill him. But Kenjaku was never actually in any danger of dying. By exhausting himself in the performance and letting his guard down, he left himself totally wide open to a local bush camper's violent ambush and was destroyed not by Takaba, but by his own confidence of his victory. One of these fighters was only fighting to kill, and the other was only fighting to make people smile. Kenjaku accounted for all outcomes and was able to overcome everything that ever came his way. But the one thing he didn't take into account was that Takaba was simply too good of a person to kill someone. Kenjaku's final words to Takaba were of praise, not of his opponent's strength, but his comedic skill. His final gift to Takaba was one sentence, and one that Takaba has been waiting to hear his entire life. You were hilarious up there. And with that, Takaba's greatest performance comes to a close. And at the same time, Kenjaku's 1,000-year reign of terror and abuse comes to a swift and silent end. Even though Kenjaku was killed, his performance with Takaba was one of the greatest moments of his life, and some of the most fun he ever had. And Takaba? He lives out the rest of his life performing a comedy show with his stand-up duo, Benjaku, where the two perform in front of an audience of thousands of people, selling out tickets every single night of the week. In fact, the two were so talented that they were actually just recently offered roles in Hamilton. They never made it past the first audition. So with all that out of the way, let's ask the question again. Can we count Takaba as a special grade sorcerer? Well, yes and no. Takaba's power isn't necessarily something you can quantify based on his feats, because his feats get more absurd and unscalable the longer the fight goes on. Sukuna could use world-cutting slash on him just for Takaba to pull out a fishing rod from his mouth, cast his hook onto his bottom half, and reel it over to pull himself back together. He's not really built for fighting, he's more of a skill check. He's a puzzle to be solved, not an enemy to fight. Kenjaku proved this by stating he couldn't keep up with Takaba's fighting style and had to transition, no pun intended, to a comedic performance rather than a battle. Takaba isn't able to beat anyone because he's never trying to kill anyone. Sure, his fight with Hazunoki was when he won, but that's because he gave up. Takaba can fight someone infinitely, assuming they want to fight forever. He's an unstoppable force, and the only way you can really beat him is not to direct your energy at him, but alongside him. I think if Takaba were a cursed spirit or something, we would have seen him defeated in this exact same way, as a way to teach that sometimes direct combat isn't the only way to come out on top in a fight. I think that an interaction between Sukuna or Gojo and him would have been interesting, but Takaba would probably like run away scared or something as a joke, because Gege wouldn't want to have to show his goat struggle, and we already know he hates having to draw Gojo unless he absolutely has to, so. But it's an interesting hypothetical. Plus, if Takaba was an edgelord and found murder funny, he's probably like a Sukuna level threat at the minimum. Dude, what if every man had to constantly have his balls swinging against each other like a Newton's cradle? Not a great world to live in.
Every night to finally roam and invite newcomers to play with us. For many years we've been all alone.